special Harcourts Rata & Co. auction right here at number 59 Rush Road in Epping. By way of introduction, my name is Robert Osborne. It's a great pride to represent the company of Harcourts Rata & Co. Together with my team, who you'll see throughout the crowd here today, they are here for your assistance should you require their advice. Please feel free to approach either Sherry Singh, Amelia Farber, George Stavrakis, Maria Sapkarovsky, and of course, coming out the door right now, Lakshmi Iyer, the listing agent who for many, if not all of you, had the great pleasure of becoming acquainted with throughout the marketing campaign. Now, buyers, I'd just like to take a short moment to thank the owners of this fine property for selecting us to market and sell the home, and I'd like to share with you the following announcements which will make happy buyers bid and buy with confidence. The auction will be conducted in accordance with the rules and any additional conditions that were made available for inspection before the start of the auction. The auction rules prohibit an auctioneer from accepting bids or offers for property after the property has been knocked down to the successful bidder. The vendors have a reserve price and the auctioneer only connects bidders on request. The law prohibits false bids, prohibits major disruptions by bidders, and prohibits bidders attempting to prevent others from bidding and provides for such conduct. The rules permit for vendor bids. The words I'll use during the auction to indicate that I make the bid on behalf of the vendor are vendor bid, and by law only I, as the auctioneer, can make a vendor bid. Now, buyers, the contract of sale has been on display prior to today's auction. Agreed that today, Harcourts Rata & Co. sells on behalf of the vendor all that land together with any improvements described. The attached copy of title volume 11162, folio 089. Or this more commonly known to you and I, and of course the postman at number 59 Rush Road here in Epping. Seller with the property today offers floor covering, light fittings, fixed window furnishings, and any other fixtures and fittings of a permanent nature. Today, once the property is sold, he will call on the successful purchaser to pay deposit equal to 10% of the purchase price upon the fall of the hammer and the signing of the contract here today, and the balance to be paid at settlement in a flexible 30 to 60 days time, at which time the vendor will provide the lucky buyer with vacant possession of the property. Attached to it will be part of the contract is the vendor statement pursuant to section 32 of the Sale of Land Act. This document includes a copy of the certificate of title as well as any relevant council, planning and zoning information. All in all, quite a straightforward contract. Everything's in here, everything is quite clear. So buyers, it is with my highest recommendation what we offer you for sale here today. What an opportunity for you and your family to buy this remarkable family home in this remarkable family location where we enjoy access to absolutely everything that everyone loves about living in Epping. Very close access to a plethora of parkland, not too far away at all from multiple shopping options. You have Pacific Epping not far away at all, and of course Westfield Pleasant Valley only a stone's throw away. Plenty of schooling options in terms of both primary and secondary and tertiary at your fingertips. The property itself absolutely made for family living, quality throughout, absolutely nothing to do. 4 bedrooms serviced by 2 bathrooms, that massive bedroom and some open, plain living at the back, formal living at the front, and then spilling out that beautiful undercover area where you can relax or entertain as you watch the kids play in the backyard and take a dip in that beautiful pool. Guys, I know that you've had the opportunity to see it. I know that you've had the opportunity to love it. Now is your opportunity to buy it. The way that you can do that, guys, is quite simple. Raise your hands high up in the air, call out your bids to me and allow us to watch myself today by calling 3 times. First call, second call, third and final call, and when the contract hits my hand, the property will be sold. Our vendor's instructions are very clear. They want to see sold. Stick her up on that board at the conclusion of this auction. So buy. If that is your intention, now is your time to reserve that exclusive right. Where can I see a very reasonable starting bid for number 59 Rush Road here in Epping? Who'd like to start us off? 700. At 700, it's a bit high off, but I'll go with you at 700,000 now. Was that a bid? At 850, and that's a better bid. I'll go with that. At 850,000 now, at 850 the bid. At 850,000, fairly bid off, and perhaps we can take 25 on top of that at 850, make it 875 in the rise. At 850,000, fairly bid off, and now 850 the bid. 875 and welcome. At 875,000, round me off to 9, so at 875 the bid's there now at 875. 876. I won't take that, sir, at 875,000. You've got to give me a bigger bid than that. It was a great first bid. I'll take 10 if it helps. At 875,000, fairly bid off, and make it 885, sir, if you like. At 875.
Take 5.
I'll take the 5 at 880,000. Happy to work with you. And the same courtesy if you like, sir, 5 at 800. 890, even better at 890,000. That's a competition, sir. Competition's getting bigger. That means you have to, sir, if you want to buy at 890,000. The bid's here now at 890. At 890,000, make it 900, even money in the ride. At 890 now. At 890,000 once. At 890 are we done. At 890,000 twice. At 890 done. Finished. Third. Final call at 890,000. Are we all done? 900. 900. I've got 900 here if you don't mind it. 900,000 buys. We are on the market and selling. Make absolutely no mistake about it. At 900,000, the bid's in the middle. Opposition on both sides, but at 900,000, there will be no half-time break. 902,000 now at 902. No half-time break here by instructions. We're not going inside to see further clarification. We are on the market. We sell here today at 902,000. Bids there against you, sir, in the middle, and you, sir, on the side at 902,000. We're selling here, no better bid. At 902,000 now, fairly been offered at 902, and we're selling at 902,000 on the market and selling. Make absolutely no mistake about it. There's no second chances here. Once the hammer four sold is sold. God is gone at 902 now at 902,000. Once at 902, are we all done? At 902,000 twice. At 902, are we done? Finished. Third. Final call at 902,000. The bid. At 905 now, welcome back to it. 905,000, the bid now there. At 905,000, sir, you almost had those bids before. If you want them back now, you have to bid me. At 905,000. At 906 now, 906. At 906,000, just a cheeky $1,000 bid. Surely we can do better than that. At 906,000, bid me 10, get ahead. At 906,000, perhaps put those bids in your pocket for good. At 906,000, the bid there. It's against you on the side, and you, sir, in the middle. At 906,000, we sell away, no better bid. At 906,000 once. At 906, are we all done? At 906,000 twice. At 906, done. Finished. Third. Final call at 906,000. What was that, sir? At 910 and a great bid at that. 910,000 now. At 910,000, there back again. At 911, at 911. It's emergency, sir. You're about to miss out on it. At 911,000. At 911 now. At 911,000, bids there back against you in the middle, sir. Are we done over here on the side? At 911,000, fairly been offered now at 911. At 911,000. At 911,000, I'll sell it that if there's nowhere to bid here today. At 911,000 once. At 911, are we all done? At 911,000 twice. At 911 for the third and final call at 911,000. Are we all done? Are we all finished? Silent and out at 911,000. At 9:15 now, welcome back. At 915,000. If you want to buy, this is the time to go. At 916, not quite big. At 916,000. At 916,000, round me off to 20 if you want to buy. At 916,000, fairly been offered. At 916,000, the bid now. At 916. At 916,000, the bid. See how the opportunity is there and in the middle. At 916,000, fairly been offered. Now we sell away, no better bid. At 916,000, you still with me, sir? Are we done? At 916 now, once. At 920. At 920 now, a great bid. At 920,000, third. The competition's getting bigger. Go bigger still. At 920,000, the bid there. Now. At 920,000, at 922, why not at 922? At 922,000. At 922,000, small bids against big bids. See, let's see who went down. 922. At 922,000, fairly been offered now. 922,000 the bid. It's against you again, sir, and you, sir, in the middle. At 922,000, we've got to sell here today. At 922,000 once. At 922, all done. Twice. At 922,000, are we done? Finished. Third. Final call. I heard 23, but I heard 25 over here. If you don't mind, I'll go with the bigger bid at 925,000. Was that you, sir, on the phone? At 925,000, bid there, give me 30, get on top. At 925,000 now, fairly been offered. at 925,000. Bids there across the road against you, sir, 26 now at 926,000. 30 surely at 926,000. We're selling here today at 926,000. Sir, was that a bid with your hand up there at 926,000? No, it wasn't. Sir, if you come to my auction, put your hand up, we'll take your money at 926,000. Now fairly been offered at 926 the bid at 926,000. Bids there against you, sir, at 926 once at 926,000. Done. Twice at 926,000 at 30 now at 930 at 930,000. Bids there now, sir, at 930 at 930,000. Sir, what about you on the phone across the road? You still with me? That one bid's quite didn't cut it at 931 at 931 at 931,000. Really been offered now. Now's the time to pull out the big guns. Go big at 931,000. Perhaps throwing off the 40 and show them that you're here to buy. Wipe the competition out with a big bid. Knockout bid, as we call it in the trade, at 931,000. We sell here today at 931 now for the first call at 931. At 1 and 2 at 932,000. At 932,000. At 932,000. 65 shows the market strong. At 33 now, 933. At 933,000. Quick bids means strength in the market, confidence in the market, and why not? At 933,000, Melbourne's back out and about, out of lockdown, and we want to do business. We love our real estate. At 933,000, the bid's there. It's against you, sir. At 933,000. What about you, sir, in the middle? On your phone, we've definitely done. Thank you very much for your spirit of being here today. At 933,000, bids there against you. Tell me to sell, and I will. At 933,000, sir, across the road on the phone, definitely done. Thank you, sir, for your participation. At 933,000, all done for the first call at 933. Twice at 34 now. At 934,000. Very short and bigger than that. At 934,000, making 40 in the right. At 934,000, 935 now. 935. At 935, and we're back here at 935. At 935,000 the bid. At 935,000 once. At 935. At 935,000 twice. At 935. At 935,000 the bid for the third. At final call. At 935,000. Are we all done?
40.
At 40, and a great bid at that. Might put you in good stead. At 940,000, the bid back here at 40. And congratulations, if you like, at 940,000. At 940,000 now, fairly been off at 940 the bid. Against two bids there. Opportunity here, sir. About to sell at 940,000. If you're here to buy, show me that interest now. More than have a cause. Can't deal with you after. We're on the market we sell at 941 now, 941. And 50 might be the ticket to keep those keys. At 941,000 now. At 941,000 the bid's there. Against you, sir, at 941. At 941,000 once. At 941. At 941,000 twice. At 941. At 941,000 for the third. At final call. At 941. Are we done? Are we finished? At 42 now, 942. At 942 the bid. Big over there, sir. The opportunity still you at 942,000. The bid against you at 942,000 over there. The bid is very beginning, sir. Please don't leave me just yet. It's my first option back in the street. I'd like to stay with you a little bit longer if you can. At 43, at 943, thank you, sir, 943. At 943,000, bids back there, back against you, sir, ma'am, at 943,000. At 943,000, we sell away. At 943,000 once. At 943, are we all done? At 943,000 twice. At 943, are we done? Finished for the third and final call at 943,000. At 1 now, 44. At 944,000. At 944. So good to look in the eye, sir. Haven't been able to do that online. At 944,000 here we are. At 1 now, 45. At 945,000. At 945,000. Bid back here, back against you at 45. At 945 we've got. At 945,000. Make it 50 in the rise. Give me a big bid. Might just do it for you here today at 945,000. Barely been offered over here. Against you, opportunity on my left. You're at 945. At 945,000 once. At 945. Twice. At 945,000. Bids here on my right. Your left. Opportunity with you for the third and final call at 945,000 the bid. We've done it right now, 946. At 946 now, so Rich by Rich will go. At 946,000 the bid back there. At 946 might take me to buy it. At 946,000. At 946 the bid there, sir, on my left. Your right is against you at 946, at 47 now, 947. At 947,000, this is the time to bid quickly and bid big, because big bids buy property. At 947,000, I've got to sell. At 947 now. 50, can I say, sir? At 1. At 948. At 948,000. 948,000, bid back there now, 948. At 948,000 back. Ball's back in your court, third out, 948 the bid, at 948,000, at 49 now, and 50 beckons surely, sir, at 949,000 the bid. Bids over here against you at 49, at 949,000 now, make it 50 in the right. At 949,000, fairly been offered. At 949 now, 50 can I say, at 949,000 once, at 949 are we done? Bid me 950, sir. It sounds so good. 950, just got a certain ring to it. At 950,000 twice. At 949 twice. Jumping a little bit ahead of myself. I was preempting your next bid, sir. At 949, third, final call. At 949,000, are we all done? All finished. Silent and out. At 50 now. At 950,000. It does sound good, sir. You know what sounds better? 951. At 950,000 the bid there. Yes. At 950,000, fairly been offered now. 950 the bid. At 950,000. At 950,000, bid there. Against you. At 950,000. Take your first week in the freedom to mean something memorable. Straight to memory. One at 951, at 951,000 now, at 951 the bids there, back against you, sir, ma'am, at 951,000, got to sell here today, at 951 now, fairly been offered, at 951,000 once, at 951, at 900, was that two, sir? Was that a bid, sir? 951,000, can I confirm that, Mills, at 951, did I get a bid there? At 951,000. Just waiting for you to confirm. At 951,000, fairly been offered now. At 95, was that a bid, sir? At 2 now, 952. Welcome back at 952. At 952,000. At 952,000, you've got to go to $1,000 bid, sir. At 53 now, 953. At 953,000. At 953,000, bids back here now against you, sir, at 953. At 953,000. At 953,000 now, making at least 55 in the right. At 953. At 953,000, fairly been offered once. At 953. At 953,000 twice. At 953. For the third and final call at 953,000, and we're all done. 53 bids here against you, sir, against your buy mills. At 953 for the at 4 now, 954. At 954. At 954,000 bids there. Roll the dice, sir, now at 954. At 954,000, fairly been offered now. Make at least 55 in the right. Too much going to be 55 now. At 955,000. At 955,000 now, fairly been offered 955 the bid. At 955,000. Give me a big bid. Make it 60 in the right. At 955,000 the bid. Once. At 955. At 955,000 twice. At 955. Third. Bids here at 955 against your buy Amelia at 955,000. Third, final call at 955,000 the bid. Are we all done? All finished? Silent? Out? At 955,000. Fairly been offered now at 955. We'll come over and have a quick chat with you, sir. At 955,000. Give me a big make it 60. Are you sure you're done? Absolutely done. Thank you very much for being here today, sir. 955,000. They tell me they're out, sir, but I'll tell you what. I'm just going to give you one moment to think about it. Count to 3 at 955,000. Bid here against you, sir. Last chance at 955,000. Once at 955. We'll be done. At 955,000. Twice at 955. All done. All finished. Third, final call at 955,000 the bid. All done. All finished. Silent and out at 955. So one last chance. Tell me you're out or sell at 955,000. Definitely out at 955. Yes or no? Need to know. Got to sell at 955,000 now. Give me one for all time's sake. Might be the lucky bid at 955,000. Fairly been offered now at 955. Just want to make sure that you're definitely out before we sell. Don't want you to have any last moment regrets at 955 now. At 955,000. Fairly been offered. Got to sell here today at 955 on the market. At 955. They tell me they're definitely out now, so once at 955 done, twice at 955 done and finished, third and final score at 955,000 the bid, all done, all finished, silent and out at 955. We're selling. Congratulations, Rob Ferguson and our wonderful Bengals here today. You've just witnessed another on-site success from Harcourts, Rata and Co. Have a great weekend. We look forward to seeing you live in the coming week. Thank you. It's hard to get out of here.